I'm Jillian Corn from Cabrini College.
Hi, I'm Byrd.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. And you are?
Kim Caston from
Hi,
Cabrini.
Kim.
So, how long have you lived here in Mount Pleasant for?
I've lived over 40 years here, and I left and came back. So it's a total of over 40 years. This is my family home, so I inherited the home.
Yeah, it's a beautiful home.
Thank you.
What's your current address?
1001 Mount Pleasant Avenue.
Okay. So, have you liked living in Mount Pleasant for the past 40 years?
I've loved it.
Yeah.
I've loved it. I've had opportunities to move, and I didn't take it.
Wow, okay. Yeah, because since our schools are down the road, we always pass it, going to Wawa or just taking trips around, and it's such a cute community.
Thank you.
But, so tell us about the changes a little bit of the community. I know, when you came in to talk to our class, you said, things had changed, and not for the better, maybe, some for the better, but I guess just tell us a little bit about that.
Well, the neighborhood has changed. It used to be very family-oriented, and everybody knew everybody.
Mm-hmm.
The problem now is as the generations have, passed on, the younger people have not wanted to live in Mount Pleasant, so they sold off their homes, and they've sold it to investors, and those investors have turned it into rental properties. Now, if they were renting to families, that wouldn't be as much of an issue, but you have kind of a transient crowd because it's teenagers from colleges, and so every semester you have a new group of people coming in. So you might not even ever meet your neighbors,
Yeah, I know. It seems like it's a very family-oriented community. So is it like that? Like, there are a lot of families around here, or?
There's some long-term families. When you actually look at the history of Mount Pleasant, there's a lot of prominent names that come up.
Okay.
And one of them is the Byrd family, which I married into.
Yeah.
And Mr. Isaiah Byrd, who was my husband's grandfather, owned a lot of property, and he had a business. He had a diner on up not too far from the school, actually, up on Upper Gulf Road, and he had a trash hauling business. And he was very successful man. I mean, he used to have the latest of all the cars and nice home and everything. So he would go to maybe a third party and purchase a house, and then that party would transfer it over to him because of some of the discrimination reasons that they wouldn't sell to him or whatever the reason might be. He would buy houses in the neighborhood and make sure that all of his sons and daughters had a home. So they would rent from him or buy from him, or eventually everyone bought from him. And so therefore it was a lot of cousins and neighbors, and you knew everyone. And the same thing with, there was another gentleman that had, used to be a bar at the corner, so Mr. Reed had the means to buy a lot of properties also. And there were the Banks family and the Smith family and a lot of different families, and you knew everybody.
Yeah.
And so, going up the street or coming down with children, it didn't make a difference because you knew someone was watching out for them.
Yeah.
And you just don't have that same kind of close-knit family anymore because there's a different crowd every time.
Yeah.
And you may or may not be introduced to the students.
Okay.
And it's about 25% of the neighborhood actually is rental properties now.
Is it?
Yes.
Wow.
Mount Pleasant consists of Mount Pleasant Avenue, Henry Avenue, and Fairview Avenue. So those three streets, it's a pocket of a neighborhood within a bigger community.
Yeah.
And so that has become a little issue.
Yeah, definitely. I can see why.
Sure.
Yeah. So tell us a little about your children. Well, you have 3 girls, as you said, or women now.
Yeah. I have 3 daughters. One went to Penn State and 2 went to Westchester. They're all grown now and married, and I have 5 grandchildren.
Wow.
Yeah.
Definitely a very busy bee.
Yeah. And only one, my middle daughter, still lives in Mount Pleasant. She left for a while, went off to college and moved for a while, and came back to the neighborhood. And actually, we owned a second house. My husband did, and so she actually purchased that house.
And she lives here currently?
She lives here currently, down the end of the street. What's unique about this neighborhood, particularly on this street, it doesn't really occur on the other 2 streets, but it does if you go 1 street further on Radnor Road. This is different township. So the ordinances and anything that we had to pass, and you pay your taxes and everything, that belongs to different. My house is on the border.
Oh.
So right in my driveway actually is Upper Marion. So I actually purchased some land so that I could have enough setback to do what I needed to do with this home. And the people catty corner across the street from me, which is is a Byrd family, incidentally,
Oh,
one of
wow.
the oldest Byrd sons of Isaiah Byrd. Actually, they're in Upper Marion. So growing up, half the neighborhood caught the bus up the top of the street, went to
Oh.
Upper Marion High School or, elementary,
Yeah.
and the rest went to different.
Wow.
So it was really interesting on the same street.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, but Wayne has a lot of that, Radnor
Uh-huh.
Township, Upper Marion, there's a lot of
Yeah.
different townships.
I know Cabrini's like the front entrance is Radnor and the back's Wayne, or
Yeah,
it's
something
vice
like that.
It's vice
Oh,
versa.
that's
I don't know.
funny.
Yeah, but
Isn't that interesting?
that's weird how it's like zoned like that.
It is, it
That's
is.
unique.
Are there any important people in your community? I guess.
Or talk a little bit about Maisie B. Hall.
Oh yeah.
Yes, certainly. Maisie B. Hall was a school teacher. She died, and I have to guess, maybe about 5 years ago now. She lived to be 103. She had her 100th birthday at the Radnor Hotel, which is fabulous. There was, tons of people there,
Mhm.
and letter from the mayor and everything. It was really, really nice.
Wow.
The governor and everybody, so that was well attended. She was the first African American teacher in the state of Pennsylvania, I think, but certainly in this area.
Yeah.
And she was not permitted to teach because of discrimination laws. She was not allowed to teach in Pennsylvania. She had to go to Camden, New Jersey.
Okay.
Well, she was the type of person that befriended everybody, so she brings students home that didn't have, any place to go for Christmas and that type of thing. And she has a lot of letters and artifacts that we've actually captured, and it's in a library at Eastern and also at the Bloxon Museum at Temple. So she has tons and tons of information about her, but she was a wonderful lady. She never married. Beautiful person, and what she did was she would take in students, and then she would also run like maybe at one time she would have a summer camp, and then she would have garden parties in her yard. In her yard,
oh, wow.
fabulous. And she knew so many people, and eventually when the laws changed, she was able to teach in Pennsylvania. So she taught at one of the first, and it was a segregated school. That was a little before my time, but the TE school used to have a segregated school, which is at the top of the street, which I told you eventually became Hungerford's Insulation.
Oh yeah.
And then now it's a beautiful office building that they've
Mhm.
totally renovated. But yeah, she was fabulous, and she was a teacher up until she couldn't teach any longer, almost.
Wow.
Yeah, for many, many years. And to kind of honor her and keep her legacy going, they named the park of the street, which is a public park now, after her, the Maisie B. Hall Park. And then there's a garden that just a couple years ago that they built down there, and that's because a wall fell down,
Oh.
and the people on the other side, from Radnor Road and those condominiums said, wow, we never knew all these houses were back here.
Yeah.
And they said, let's honor Miss Hall and let's become united. So they we had a big thing on Fox 29, and they actually came down, helped build whole, who was there, Home Depot, and Whole Foods was there, and they actually helped put a lot of vegetables and fruits in, and it's free to anybody. It's free to
that's
anybody,
great.
so it's really neat, but they
Yeah.
named it after her.
When did they knock her house down? What was the situation with that?
I'm not really sure. I know investors bought a whole plot of land back there, and her house was on one of them. They bought a couple houses, tore them down, and it's vacant land right now.
Right.
They have not developed it, and I don't know what the reason is, but that's been down for a while. Her house was not on the historical registry or anything like that. It's just that we wanted to preserve her artifacts.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
her letters and all of that. We
Yeah.
saved. Mhm.
We were saying like that's like history to tear down.
I
She's just an
know.
important person.
I know.
Someone said when we were taking the tour, they were like, why would they tear that down? Like, do tours in the house maybe, or like, see the garden and stuff.
That would have been interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of sad. They were just like, okay, I'll tear it down. Like,
Well, by being a single person and not having a man around the house and getting up in age to be 103,
yeah.
there was probably a lot of work to be done to the house, so
Yeah.
somebody came along and probably just bought it up. Because I know all of her proceeds from whatever was sold went to her alma mater, which was Westchester.
oh, okay.
Yeah, but the library we wanted to preserve closer to home, so I think that's why they chose Eastern.
Oh,
Or,
yeah.
so.
Yeah, we were supposed to go there, but I think they said like the library, something was too small. We all couldn't fit in there.
You
but
couldn't fit, and I understand that some of the boxes have not, some of the details and some of the artifacts has not been, presented. It
Yeah.
hasn't been cataloged yet,
Mhm.
maybe, so.
Okay.
Yeah. Is there, I know, like, since there's a whole bunch of land back there, is there maybe, like, a shopping center going in there or anything? Or are there new houses, or?
See, that's the problem. When you get enough investors in a community and it's zoned R4,
Mhm.
they can come in and put retail. The difference is with an R1, it's all housing. You're not permitted to do any retail or put up shops or anything.
Yeah.
When it's an R4 neighborhood, perhaps you can put a sewing shop next to an ice cream shop or
Right.
whatever.
Yeah.
And that's the difference. And initially, this neighborhood, they built the homes, and then they decided to come by and put roads in.
Mhm.
So a lot of you have to get a variance to do certain things, but investors, I guess, can get around that by building larger properties, and particularly when you buy, like, all those plots down there that, or lots, I should say, I'm sorry, down by where Miss Maisie B. Hall is.
Mhm.
So, yeah, a lot of investors could get together and kind of turn the rental homes into something, with the township's permission, into something even more.
Yeah.
Right.
And that is a concern,
Of course.
because, but this used to be blue-collar workers. I mean, we had maids and butlers and people that work in the automotive industry and carpenters and painters, and then you had entrepreneurs. You had, a seamstress that sewed for well-to-do people. You had an upholsterer. You had all kinds of people mixed together
Yeah.
in this neighborhood, but it was zoned R4 because initially we didn't have the buying power, we didn't have any saying power, and it was predominantly black for a short period of time. It started out, that wasn't the way it was, and then it became that, and so when they zone it R4, you kind of lose some of that control.
Right.
Of course, you don't have $1-million houses on
Yeah.
these three streets,
Mhm.
so you lose control, even though it's all around us. So there's a pocket of people where we don't have as much buying control or bargaining power, I guess, so they can pretty much do what they want. And that's the issue with bringing too many investors in versus having family people that are going to stick together.
Mhm.
Right.
Mhm.
I think they should definitely ask you, like, as a community, like, would you like to see something go in there, or
Right.
like, do you want the land empty? Like,
You would think, but it's all
Yeah.
about making a profit, I'm sure.
that's
Yeah.
true. That's
Yeah.
very true. So do you have a lot of, like, positive memories of this, like, of Mount Pleasant, or are there some negative memories, or?
No, I have all positive.
All positive.
Yeah, it was a nice, safe neighborhood. We used to have block parties. We still have community parties, a lot, like barbecues that are free. Back, in the summer we'll do something like that. Kevin Stroman has a Memorial Day for Miss Maisie B. Hall, and people donate all the food, and there's entertainment. That's wonderful. Our church at the top of the hill, First Baptist Church, we have an annual bazaar. Unfortunately, guys will be gone, but I
know.
always invite
Yeah.
the colleges because it's a great opportunity to meet people, and the Radnor Fire Company gives the kids rides, and we have a moon bounce, and really a fun day. So, that's open to everybody. We put up flyers all over, and people come from all over.
Yeah.
And that's really nice. So it's a fun neighborhood. You don't do the block parties anymore, but if people have barbecues or whatever, for the most part, anybody can walk in, even the college kids. Nobody really cares.
Yeah.
Everybody's welcome.
Mhm.
And that's good because I know people that live in beautiful, beautiful neighborhoods, and they don't even know, their neighbors,
Yeah.
unless they go to the PTA meeting or something.
Yeah,
Right,
exactly.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, I
it's
know,
really nice.
you were saying how we all want to come do barbecue one time, but we're all going to be gone, like, May 10th, so.
Yes, I know.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah.
So tell us about, like, your work experience. Did you work at all, or?
Yes, I was a commercial insurance underwriter up until 2008, large accounts underwriter, and I left the job. I was actually fired. Yeah, that's okay. Long story short. But I've enjoyed getting out of a stressful corporate type job and being home with my grandchildren. And I wanted to start my own business. I'd like to have a soul food place, takeout place.
Nice.
Okay.
And that would be unique on the main line because we don't have a lot of
Yeah.
that I can think of.
I would definitely go.
That'd be
Yeah,
good.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I would, rent a space and keep it open 3 days on
Yeah.
the weekends or something like that.
Yeah.
So that's my ultimate dream.
Aw,
Mhm.
plus you get time with your grandkids and everything, and
Yeah,
watch
yeah.
them grow.
Well, I have my insurance degree, and I also have a college degree that
Okay.
I just went back to Eastern and got in 2007. So
You went to Eastern, right?
I went to Eastern.
Oh, wow.
I went to the degree completion. I
Uh-huh.
don't know how you guys go like a straight 4 years. I did it. I
It's
did the
rough.
night program,
A little
and
tough.
I was finished. Yeah, it's really tough, but enjoy it because I
Yeah.
worked during the day and went to
Mhm.
school at night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people do that.
Mhm.
I don't know, what else do you think?
Is there anything that you want to talk about the community, about like the past, the history, anything that you want to mention or anything?
Well, one thing I liked about the neighborhood that's really gone is it used to be self-sufficient. So there used to be a corner store up there, and that's fine now because it's a barber shop and there's an apartment over it. But so that serves its purpose as well for the men, I guess.
Yeah.
But that used to be a corner store owned by the Hobson family, and then it was an antique store for a while, and there was an ice cream shop down the street, and there was a diner that Isaiah Byrd, my grandfather, by marriage had, and you could take your car to anybody, and there were mechanics around, and if you needed a dress fitting, there was a seamstress up the street.
Yeah.
She actually just died. Josephine Morgan died maybe 3 years ago, and that became an investor. So it used to be that you didn't have to go to the King of Prussia Mall, really. If you just wanted a few things in the middle of the night, you could just, find it. But that's kind of changed. And, things change,
Yeah.
So from that perspective, the R4 rating was pretty good because
Yeah.
people could do that.
Mhm.
But I've been to township meetings where, in other neighborhoods, somebody might want to have just CAD designs and do artwork on the computer.
Right.
And people were fighting this one lady, like, tooth and nail. Oh, no, you can't bring any kind of business in this neighborhood. We won't have it. And she said, well, I'm just sitting at the computer, that
Yeah.
kind of thing, please. But,
Exactly.
yeah, so it has its good and bad points,
Mhm. Right.
Mhm.
When did the community start being the way it was? Like, was it like in the 60s, or like when did it start being like a tight-knit type of community? Do you
Well,
know?
I moved here as a little girl back in the late 50s.
Yeah.
And when I came here, it was already an established neighborhood, and people,
Okay.
you just got to meet people and everything, and everybody spoke to everybody, and there weren't cars flying up down the street like they are today.
Yeah.
Everybody's so busy.
Yeah.
But that's also a sign of the times, too.
Yeah.
Because more people are going to college, and I think that's what's happened as the next generation has left. They went off to college, they got married, and they never came back.
Right.
So maybe their grandmother or their parents or whatever didn't fix up the homes or whatever, so it's easy to sell it and get rid of it,
Yeah.
as opposed to say, you know what, maybe I'll save this and rent it to a nice family or something like that.
Right.
It's easier to just sell it off, maybe not even at, what it's worth,
Yeah.
than to, worry about having to take care of another property.
Right.
So I think that's what has happened,
Mhm.
But my memory of the neighborhood, I can't remember anything bad. I mean, we, just like anywhere else, you didn't used to lock your doors, You'd yell to your neighbor, hey, can I have a cup of sugar,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
kind of thing,
Yeah.
And a lot of people have built up their properties, a lot of
Mhm.
changes from that perspective. So it's nice what the investors have done, but it's also nice to have that feeling, the pride and ownership when you can fix your own house up. My house and the house across the street from me were the original houses in the neighborhood,
Okay.
so I'm told. So it's got to be 130 years old.
Right.
So, little by little, I've gutted each room, and,
Yeah.
thousands of dollars later, you have to do that to fix up a property, but it takes time,
Right.
and a lot of people have done that and preserved their homes and neighborhoods. Now the chapel at the top of the street, that's on the historical registry.
Oh, okay.
And so that one had to be done a certain way, of course, to preserve it. And contractors actually, over a period of, I think, a couple of years, actually volunteered their time and built that back up.
Okay.
And that was the original car school. And the car school, the Carr family were one of the first people back in the 1800s that moved here.
Yeah.
And so that used to be where the graveyard is now, next to the barber shop.
Okay.
And when we took the tour, that used to be a playground behind that little tiny school.
Oh my God.
And then everybody outgrew it, and then
Yeah.
PE was developed, and then, the one up the street was the segregated school.
Yeah.
So
What was
you
the
know.
card school? Like what?
that was just that was a public school.
Mhm.
It was a public school, but it was the only one in the area where kids could go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. And from what I hear, blacks weren't allowed there initially, and then so they built another school because they actually the people there actually outgrew it.
Okay.
You know, but when I came along, it was a mixed neighborhood.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you know, in the early '50s when I came along, it was a mixed neighborhood.
Mhm.
And I always said, hey, we're all mixed up. It's mixed construction, mixed neighborhood, mixed ages, you know, mixed businesses, and it was really, really interesting. And when I had the option of, you know, do I want to fix my house? Do I want to add an addition? Do I want to leave? And I thought about it, and I thought, gosh, I know everybody here. My kids go to the Conestoga, you know, and it's like, do you really want to move? And it's like, I'm comfortable, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what kind of made you stay. Like, you know, you said you had an opportunity to leave the development and go somewhere else.
Correct.
But just thinking about, like, how your kids grew up here,
And the
you grew up
memories,
here,
yes,
exactly,
yes,
made you kind of just want to stay.
Exactly.
You can never tell this house is, like, older.
Oh,
It's, like,
thank you.
just built.
It creaks.
Let's see what else to say. What do you think the future holds for Mount Pleasant? Where do you...
Well, that's the scary thing, because when we actually bought actually in September, the end of August, they passed it for September, the ordinance which required the landlords of all the rental properties to do certain things. For example, only 3 non-related people in one particular, you know, property.
Right.
And, you know, you have to be responsible for fixing it up, getting the trash out, you know, all those type things. What I found was we passed all this, and now they said, but guess what? Those 17 homes or 25% of the neighborhood, they're grandfathered in. So now that we've already allowed them to come in, you can't change that. So who knows what the future will be. If the investors will get together, tear down those homes and decide, let's put them all up, you know.
Exactly.
We don't know, and I don't even know if that's feasible, but I'm just saying, for example, that the bottom of Henry Avenue where they cleared out a lot, the rumor was they were going to build a lot of townhouses down there, and that didn't happen. So who knows what they're holding off for. I would like to see everybody engage in meeting one another and finding out about the neighborhood, whether it's from the perspective of, I think a lot of students from Villanova live here, so on Villanova's end, or the landlord, somebody to let them know, hey, you have little kids around here. I know you're not thinking about that because you got to get to class, but you got to be careful, you know, about partying and riding up and down the street. I don't know if that's ever going to change because of the amount of houses that are already grandfathered in. And some are by the same investors, so, and some are absent landlords. You know, so do they really care? They, you know, they really don't care. So you lose that pride in ownership, because obviously, just like you guys, you know, you're not going to fix up a place that you don't own. And, you know, so it doesn't belong to you. So it, and then even if you did, if you just took all the pride in the world and just fixed it up and did the yard work and everything, the next group, you graduate, the next group comes along, or you move to another property. So.
Do you think the laws and, like, the regulations, like, on the houses in the neighborhood are being met?
They're not being enforced. Now, it's relatively new into the process, but there were certain rules that were supposed to be followed back in September, and to my understanding, we would be able to go into the internet and find out if any of that has happened, and the landlords, from what I hear, that hasn't been happening. They haven't been adhering to the rules.
Because they're not here.
Well, or they just maybe don't care, or nobody's enforcing the rules, you know, yet. So that's, you know, yet to be seen. Hopefully in the future that will grasp, you know, on, and you know, people will get an idea of what you're supposed to do. And again, like I said, you know, we don't have any problem with college students. Obviously, all of us went to college, and that's a great thing. It's when you get a collective body of people that aren't thinking the same way, family-oriented like we are, then they're probably a little more careless than we would like to see. There were some comments made to my granddaughter and a couple other kids. Hey, little girl, you want to come in and help me carry the TV? Totally unacceptable. But they might not have, you know, it doesn't mean they're a sex predator. It just means maybe they weren't even thinking. They were just being friendly. But we don't know that. That's
because
an issue.
We don't know them.
We don't know them, and they didn't know us, you know, so that's an issue. Whereas the year before, I had engineers come over and introduce themselves, and they were all in the same program. And they said, hey, here's my cell phone number. If you see anything, if we do anything, please call us first.
Yeah.
You know, but the police are supposed to take the records, and they really do come down and through the neighborhood quite often to see if there's any issues. You know, we had an issue with the snowplow dumping, and we don't even know where this landscaper was getting it, the snow from, but he was dumping it on Miss Macy B. Hall's garden. Hey, that's not your property. I
Yeah,
mean,
exactly.
it's not private property, but it's certainly not your place. Where did you get permission to do this? You know, and then it all melts, and then you have all these truck tires, you know. So those type things. My only issue is when these people leave, the landscaper owns the company, or the absentee landlords, when they leave at the end of the day, who does that in their neighborhood? How would they like it? And we found that out in the township meeting. A lot of people said, oh, well, we're R1, you know, so the distance between the properties is a lot more and all this. Well, hey, hello, that's not what we're talking about. We're trying to get to R1, and we, you know, so it's a matter of, I guess, being comfortable with where you live, and I don't think that would happen where they live, you know. And by they, I'm not saying anybody in particular. I'm just saying where it's not R1 and when you don't have an influx of college students.
Right.
Yeah, that makes a difference.
Of course.
Is there anything else you
No,
want to say?
I can't think of
To
anything.
end anything, or no?
Oh, what do you see like our class doing? What would you like? Would you like to see us come in and maybe help with a garden, or I don't know, maybe help clean up anything, or you know?
Well, the last class actually put together brochures, which were excellent. Unfortunately, it didn't go anywhere, and that would have been very interesting to send to the township, and we can still do that. Dr. Swartzy and I talked about it because it had one group did something on safety and things that I never even saw. There's a sewer place a little bit up the street on the right-hand side, and it's really big. Like if it was swelling waters or something, a kid really could get washed down there, you know. And the turnaround down the street, which is actually not too different, it's Upper Marion, but you know, people speed in there, you know, they sit in there at night, you know, and that kind of thing. So, and there could be more lighting up at the park and stuff like that. So brochures was one thing, but we really should take that a step further. But the oral history is invaluable because we need to preserve what, you know, when I'm gone, somebody needs to know how the neighborhood used to be. And so what you're doing now, I love your project. I don't know how you're going to put it all together, but I hope I can come out on the day that you present it.
Definitely.
Yeah, because that's going to be very interesting to hear everybody's perspective. Some people live right where there are 5 houses of college students. It gets a bit noisy when everybody's partying or, you know, everything. They have more of an issue than I do. The most maybe because I'm on the end of it, there aren't any college students living beyond here, and that could be because it's Upper Marion. Maybe they have different ordinances, and people have tried to sell their houses and to rent for rental properties, and they couldn't. But you know, I might get somebody that parks in front of my sidewalk and blocks the mailbox or something. I hear doors slamming, you know, at night, and you know, they may play kickball out here, or you know, in the dark. There may be things going on, but I don't really get a lot of issues or trouble. The other street, sometimes because Fairview is one way, they go down and around and race up, you know, so that might be more of an issue here. That by the time they get to my house, you kind of have to slow down because you have to go to the turnaround and go back up because, you know, you can't get out on our street.
Exactly.
So it's just a difference, you know. I haven't had a lot of real troublesome issues.
That's good.
I'm grateful for where I am.
Like where you are in the spot.
Right.
Well, I think that
wraps it up.
Good.
Right.
Do you have questions and everything?
You asked about my parents.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's interesting. I lived in the family home, and my great-grandmother lived here, and we had 5 generations when my oldest daughter was born.
Oh, wow.
She was still living. And this was a family home, and when they bought this house, I think they bought it for like $12,000 or something.
Oh,
when you think about it, back in 1940 or something. And so I was raised in a house with all elderly ladies. I was like the only kid for many years, and then my mother remarried and had 2 more children, but I was grown then. But living in a house like this in an older neighborhood and everything, there was respect for one another. I don't think people are taught, young or old, that are taught or learn or utilize respect. anymore, and that's the issue, because it didn't matter. It wasn't about race. It wasn't about age. It was a friendly neighborhood, and we didn't care who anybody was. We respected one another's properties. And, you know, the sign of the times, no matter where you go, things have changed, so people can't, you know, leave bikes outside and do, you know, things.
Yeah.
Well, we do that, but, you know,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, your property is not necessarily safe
Right.
anymore, and that's probably anywhere you go.
Sure.
So, you know, my mother was a receptionist, and she worked late hours at a beauty parlor.
Mhm.
So she worked kind of, I think Wednesday night or Thursday night was her late night or whatever. And, you know, she would come home, nobody locks cars, you know, and still some people don't, but you kind of have to.
Right,
You
yeah,
know, it's
these
kind of
days.
important to do that.
Yeah.
And my other people, one was a cook, and that was my aunt, Elizabeth, and my grandmother just kind of took in wash or whatever. She didn't do anything else than that. But, you know, African Americans couldn't get the better jobs, you know, and you didn't necessarily, nobody talked to me about going to college. And I took 7 years of French, so I wanted to be, I don't know what I wanted to be, but I wanted to incorporate French as my minor or something. And I'll never forget it. I had a guidance counselor that said to me, you know what, you need to get away from the college courses and take secretarial courses. You could be a French-speaking secretary. And you know what? That's not the first time that has been said. A lot of black students, even though they're capable of going to college, are actually pointed towards tech school or you know, secretarial. You know, you're never going to be anything kind of thing. Yeah, and that happens. People think that racism is gone. That happens in America today.
Oh, yeah.
Trust me, it happened on my job as a full-grown woman, you know, grandmother, and it happens today. So sometimes it's very subtle, and sometimes it's very blatant, you know, and people don't even realize that they think like that.
Yeah.
I mean, you know.
It's just, like, cemented.
Yeah,
It's been so long.
And I've had people say things on the job, and I'll go, he didn't or she didn't just say that, you know, in front of me.
Yeah, exactly.
But I don't even know it. It's like, that's my normal conversation at home, and it's no problem, I can say it here. And it's not acceptable, but when you know who you are, you're not really offended by it.
Yeah.
You may correct them or something like that, or you know, something, but a lot of times you just let it roll off, because racism is real, and I don't care whether Obama, no matter what color he is, it's never going to change. I just don't see racism going away. And if it's not black or white, it's Chinese or whatever, it's whatever, anybody's different. And that's unfortunate, and that's what I liked about this neighborhood, because everybody got along, and we knew each other, and we felt comfortable. And if I told you, hey, come over for spaghetti, we used to have an Italian guy, loved him to death, that lived across the street. If they cooked, we went over there.
Yeah.
When we cooked, and I had this other guy who was an insurance man, and they used to go door to door to collect for life insurance, and he would make this house the last stop, because he knew he could sit down and have dinner, you know, and it was great. But now people don't trust each other. Nobody trusts each other, you know. Look what happened after 9/11. You know, everybody was profiled that was a Middle Easterner, you know, and it's just, it's unfortunate, but it's a sign of the time. So I don't see it going away, but I don't see it as an issue in this neighborhood.
And it never was?
It was years ago, like I said, before my time. Well, of course, segregation was right about the time that I was too young to, you know that much about. But, yeah, there was definitely issues, like I said, in the school and in the job and what the guidance counselor told me and all of that. But it wasn't as bad. But it's never going to get 100% right, because generations of generations of generations are going to tell their kids, this is how we feel, or this is what, you know, you got to vote this way, or whatever. You know, it's just the way the world is. In the United States, anyhow. It's not that way in all countries, but it is.
Yeah,
it is like that.
It is like that. It never goes away.
Yeah. Yeah, there's been bad examples and good examples, but there's just it's just never going to go away. But I like this neighborhood. I just always felt safe here, and you know, we welcome everybody. Yeah. I'm surprised I haven't fed you yet, because I just that's what I do. That's what I do. So come to my store when I open it.
Oh, definitely, we'll be there.
Don't worry.
We will be there.
I will definitely be there.
Do you live around here?
We're both from Jersey. We
Oh,
just
okay.
go to Cabrini, live on campus.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
I'm from Jersey.
My sister's in Siglerville.
Okay,
Mhm.
we're
Okay, yeah.
we're central. I'm Central Jersey.
Oh,
Near
okay.
the shore.
Yeah.
Oh, you're by the
Sure.
shore. Okay.
Yeah. Beach.
That's where my Atlantic City is where my timeshare is.
Oh,
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
Yeah, the flagship.
Right. I'm more by Seaside. I don't know if you know. You ever heard of the Jersey Shore Show?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm like right around
Yeah,
there.
like
Yeah.
there's CI or something. There's CI.
It's around. It's all in the same.
It's all in the
area,
same
pretty
area,
much.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay, well then I'll buy your property down
Yeah.
there so I have a place to visit.
Yeah, go to the beach.
Yeah. Oh, you guys have been great. Thank you.
Yeah,
Is there
you've
anything
been great.
else?
Thank you so much for this.
Yeah,
Anything else
awesome.
you need to know? Or
That's
I think
it.
we hit all the main points.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Have
We
the
got all the good
community.
stuff.
Yeah. Thank you so
Good.
much for welcoming us
I'm
home
sure.
and
Absolutely.
It's
Anytime.
definitely I feel the vibe of what you're talking about.
Yeah, and you'll see as you go up the street, like we pointed out some of the places that are college students. Anything message you can give to them, say, hey, get to meet your neighbors. You know, they really are normal people.
Right.
Drive
Yeah,
slowly.
yeah.
You know, we have children.
Uh-huh.
The school bus comes down the street. Some of them and turns around. You know,
Yeah.
they turn around and that. So.
Yeah. Get the
Very
word out.
nice.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Thank
guys.
you. You guys have been great.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you.
Thank
All right,
you.
let's
Thank you.